Good evening, everyone. My name is Anders, and this is Caroline, was there or somewhere, my wife. We are the hosts of the London FI group, the London Financial Independence Group. We are celebrating 2 years with this event, where every month we get together and talk about financial independence or the FIRE movement. And either we host it and talk you through some items, or we are lucky to have had a bunch of really good speakers. We used to meet up in pubs, but with the lockdown, we've moved online. If we do encourage audience participation, but if you're not speaking, please mute. So, you know, we get speakers or we present ourselves. However, this is your event. It was born in pubs where networking is easy. It's not so easy online, but we have a lively chat that Caroline is going to manage while I'm hosting tonight. And we do use the breakout function in Zoom, which is very useful, where we break you up into groups of 4, where you get the chance sort of more to mingle. And we're going to do 2 of those tonight to discuss some of the things that we're going to go through. Caroline, what have I missed of the intro?
Well, Danny, we were just discussing that Danny's made it here. He managed to reschedule, but also we were comparing notes from the offline events that we had in London and Manchester for August. So that's about it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Last month, it was good to see some of you in Wimbledon Common. We had our first picnic, which was, well, I hope you agree, was a success. It was really good to see you all. Good. Now, tonight, we have 2 acronyms, FOMO versus FIRE. And in the notes, Caroline wrote also YOLO versus FIRE. And it's all about this much discussed challenge that the FIRE movement people get around the sacrifices, apparently, that we have to make in order to retire early and reach financial independence. And it's a hot topic. And we're going to address it tonight. And the way we're going to do that is with the following agenda. So we're going to start off by watching a short video from a detractor I found online. And then afterwards, we're going to have a breakout number 1, where you can share your feedback and your views on that video. And then we're going to meet as a group and see if anyone wants to share what happened in those breakouts. Usually we'll get the breakouts going for about 12 minutes. We find is comfortable. It goes very fast. And we really do encourage everyone to turn on your camera, to go off mute and participate and join in. That's where the fun is to be had, instead of just sitting listening to me all evening. After that breakout and feedback session, we'll have another shorter video from someone more familiar, where there is the other point of view from the point of view of the FIRE movement. And then we'll have a breakout to follow up on that one, and we'll get together and discuss that. Then we'll wrap up and as a group, see how we feel and see what conclusions we've reached. And then we'll finish off by having a sneak peek at the rest of the year. I mean, can you believe it? We are in September already. Okay. So, as I said, if you're not speaking, please do mute yourself. Although they're lovely, happy baby noises, just so we can all follow along. All right. Now, without much further ado, I'm going to try and share some. Sorry, yes, you have to meet Mrs. Dow Jones. So Mrs. Dow Jones is a millennial blogger. I do believe that is her. I don't believe those are her cars in this terribly photoshopped image. But she calls herself a financial pop star. Her tagline is "Stay Rich, Bitch." And well, I've studied a little bit of her stuff, and I think she's going to be quite entertaining. So enjoy this video, and see you in just about nine minutes.
What's up, rich people? It's me, Haley, and I'm a financial pop star. If you adore a good acronym like ROFL or YOLO or EBITDA, welcome to my Chanel. SOA, speaking of acronyms, have you ever heard of FIRE, AKA Financial Independence or Retire Early? It is a popular financial lifestyle movement that is actually
super dangerous.
Why? Leave me. Let me explain. Keep up, people. They would have gotten that on TikTok. Okay, so the FIRE movement is a community of people, usually in their 20s, who really want to retire in their 30s or 40s instead of their 60s. They have eschewed the traditional age of 65 as the end of their work lives, and instead want to retire at Jojo Siwa's age and post up in Boca and turn retirement communities into content houses. To accomplish this goal, they have to save 50 to 70% of their incomes. No, I did not stutter.
50 to 70%.
Their finish line, AKA when they know that they have reached financial independence and can in fact retire early, is when they have saved at least 25 times their annual living expenses. And because they are frugal AF, the amount that they would need to live on per year is way smaller than what most people's would be. But because they're retiring early, the amount of time that they have to account for without work is much larger than what most people's would be. So even though they need less money per year, they need more years of money. FIRE was first mentioned in the 1992 bestseller, Your Money or Your Life, which yes, I have read. It's like dog-eared and weathered. This book is so important to me. Since then, it has gained relevance though, thanks to all of the internet personalities who have really made the program their own. Mr. Money Mustache, I'm looking at you. Those seeking to attain FIRE are sort of the Soho House members of the personal finance community. You know how when your friend joins Soho House, it becomes their whole personality and they want everyone to know that they're part of it? Well, the same thing happens when your friend joins FIRE. Except unlike a Soho House membership, which yes, I am paying for despite the pandemic, FIRE seems to make your quality of life worse, not better. Yep, I am deaf, not a pyro, and 100% do not condone the FIRE movement. Why, sweetie? Well, let me break it down. Guys, we talked about this. No more tuna for lunch. Oh, I brought it. Sorry. I know it smells. Okay, in Your Money or Your Life, author Vicki Robbins calls the ties that people wear to the office a noose. Like, that is how intense she is about hating jobs. Her thesis for the FIRE movement is that money equals life energy and that by working, you're trading your life away for money. So basically, if you buy into the movement, you're 100% going to end up hating your job. But like, is your job really that bad? Like, is it horrible to have a work life? Like, is it wrong to have your 401k matched? Attempting FIRE requires such deprivation that you basically have to brainwash yourself into hating your current situation enough that it seems worth it. The movement completely
Demonizes corporate jobs, even though
a lot of people seem to enjoy them. Even if I agree with Vic that money equals life energy, is it so wrong that I want to spend my life energy doing a job? Like for me personally, I find my career fulfilling.
sorry.
And if you don't, maybe, try and pursue a career that you might like instead of committing impulsively to a life of extreme frugality so you never have to work again. Just a thought. Who bought the caviar? This is crazy. Oh. It was me. FIRE is basically financial anorexia, which yes, I am allowed to say because I was anorexic in college. Freshman year, I ate 1,200 calories a day religiously, counted every morsel that went into my mouth. I was rowing varsity crew at the time, and even though I was skinny as a needle, I was miserable. Like, never been more unhappy in my life. FIRE does to your budget what I did to my diet. It cuts everything fun out so that you feel deprived and your quality of life will tank. I am now so much happier because I live a life of balance and not extremes. And while Vicki in the book, talks about consumerism and how
the media makes us always want more. And
I get it, but I also think that the FIRE movement really downplays the enjoyment that you can get out of a lifestyle that has wiggle room. Like FIRE fans will cut everything except food and water and fully live in a van. Someone lied, okay? And someone farted. If it was you, comment below. So to moi, financial independence is when you get to stop worrying about money. But if you attempt FIRE, you are going to be worrying about money for the rest of your damn life. You will have no wiggle room financially, and being frugal to that degree is draining. Like, even thinking about being frugal to that degree is draining. I'm exhausted. Personally, I would rather have to get a report to Susan by the end of the week and then have money to go to that cool Neapolitan pizza place with my friends and drink natural wine than live in a pantry on wheels and eat gruel. I don't want to live in a van. I don't. FIRE does not make you financially independent. Like, it actually makes you financially obsessed. And also, a lot of the FIRE influencers that you look up to are lying to you. Yes, Mr. Money Mustache, I'm looking at you, buddy. You are out there acting like you are just living on $1 in a dream, but really you've got supplementary income coming in from your website and from your podcast and from the courses that you sell. And in my book, that does not mean that you are retired. That just means that you switch careers to become an influencer, which is fine, but isn't that what we talked about in step 1? That like, if you hate your life, you hate your job, maybe you should just switch careers and you don't have to live a life of extreme frugality because you did that. Okay, but also there is a reason that I read this book, and there's a reason that I am reading through the whole canon of financial literature. The reason is that I'm a nerd. And also because learning is like religion, you can pick and choose what you believe and like how seriously you want to take it. So even though I strongly disagree with the FIRE lifestyle, here are the elements of the philosophy that I actually thought were really cool. Wow, this blew my mind. Who would have thought you could save more? Okay, so the traditional amount that we are told to save of our paychecks is like 10 to 15%. And if you're like me, you took that information and went on your merry way. But after reading this book and learning about the FIRE movement, it really opened my mind and made me think about my budget and like if I could save more, to which the answer is yes. Like, am I gonna save 50 to 70% of my income? Absolutely not. But like, could I definitely get it up to maybe 25%? For sure. And I'm gonna. There's no I in we. I love you guys. You are who you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with a group of people who are financially savvy and focused, guess what, honey? You're gonna succeed. The FIRE community is so strong. Like, there's literally dating apps for people who do FIRE. And while the pickup line, come to my van and let's eat ramen, wouldn't necessarily work on me, the whole culture around this program is one that I admire and am actually trying to build right here. I love the way that you're like trying to do something. Financial goals are, quite frankly, bae. Like, they do not have to be that you want to reach FIRE, but having them is helpful AF. When you know exactly what you're aiming towards, it makes it a lot easier to get a bullseye. Okay, so basically, I am a firefighter. I am not a pyro. I do not want you to get burnt. In order to reach FIRE, you have to live a life of extreme frugality, and that is going to degrade your quality of life. Having a job, having cool work friends, having a career that you're passionate about. It's priceless and it's something that you should be proud of. But also saving diligently, spending mindfully, and working towards clear financial goals is bae. Okay, got to go join a FIRE dating app for research, but please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to drag me in the comments to filth if you are Mr. Money Mustache. And of course, stay rich, bitch, even though obviously Vicki Robbins would eschew that goal.
So welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some nice breakout sessions. Does anyone want to share some of the conversations that you've had with the people that you met? What was the feedback on the video? What did it make you think?
Well, in our group, Dwayne said that he agreed with a few of her observations. Dwayne, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So, her quote at one point was that FIRE makes you hate your job, and I don't really know if I vocalized it very well, but I think that there's some truth in that, or at least it exacerbates your feelings of maybe wanting to leave, because my reasoning for this is if somebody else is in their mid 30s or 40s and aren't on the fire route, then their plan is to continue to work until they're 60, 65, whatever. So they don't really have any escape route, any option. So for them, it's just, okay, this is what I have to do. But if you are on the fire journey, then there is like an end goal that's much sooner. And yeah, there can be some anxiety about that, I think. Whereas otherwise you just learn to deal with it, I suppose. And one of the other things that, this was actually mentioned in the chat during the video, but I find it difficult to listen to some bloggers and podcasters who are post-fire, who do make so much revenue from their blogs and their podcasts and all of that, because they're talking about, oh, this is my life 5 years post-fire, but they don't talk about like decumulation, because they even admit, like, I make so much revenue from this, I don't have to decumulate like my wealth.
So, you know, I'm guessing if you hate what you decided to do, then you can do something else. And again, you know, if you got a financial freedom and you decide that I'm going to do a YouTuber, or decide to do to be a YouTuber, you got a freedom and time to go that way if that's what you want to do. So again, you know, I'm not quite sure why you have to hate your job to go with fire.
Yeah, so the hating your job was her comment, but I was just saying that there's some relevance, I think, to it. But you're absolutely right. Like, and we did discuss it in our breakout room, that fire is actually the concepts of financial independence as well as retire early. And then if you have achieved FI, then it does give you the freedom to go away and like away from a job that you might not like, or employment altogether, and pursue something else. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think FI is the goal, and then adding the RE in the end is only one of the options of what you can do with this FI. You don't have to retire. Do whatever you want.
I think the best life hack you can do is actually get a job you enjoy. If you get a job you enjoy that you look forward to going to every day, then you've kind of won. I mean, once you get you have FU money first, that then gives you freedom to explore getting the job you want, rather than being stuck paycheck to paycheck. So you want that freedom first. The blogger had this book, Ray Dalio Principles, on the shelf. I don't know if anyone spotted it. That's a great book. She wasn't just an airhead. She had a lot going on. There was some good advice in there as well. But if you've not read Principles, very highly recommended. It makes you think better.
Which book is that? Sorry?
I'll put it in chat.
Oh, cheers.
But further from your point, Danny, that reaching fire allows you to get a job you really enjoy. It may be that you enjoy the job you do already, but because you're relying on it to pay your bills, it becomes unenjoyable, right? So I know I can certainly see that from my point of view. I do photography and I love my job, but when I'm doing it 9 days a week, it's not quite so enjoyable, you know? So fire is going to give me that enjoyment back, where I can maybe do 1 day every 2 weeks.
You already can do 1 day every 2 weeks. You're just that bloody desperate for money. You work night and day. So take your point on board, but just stop working so much.
Scary. What about her, eating porridge gruel in a camper van? Did anyone have any? I mean, that's obviously about closely to related to tonight's topic, the question of sacrifice and missing out on things because of fire. Is that a true criticism?
No, it's all about the ramen.
Yeah. Nicola, you said you stopped watching. What was the biggest turn-offs for you from the video?
It was just a desperate plea for attention, wasn't it? It wasn't really about the fire movement at all. It was just something she'd taken, skimmed the top off, and then wanted to complain about. So I didn't really find it that useful or engaging. So I think for newbies, that might not be too helpful. Obviously, she made some interesting points. And I do agree that we shouldn't deny ourselves an interesting life, but that's not what FIRE is about. It's about intentionally spending your money without wasting it. And then you don't have to retire, it's optional. And retirement means whatever you want it to mean. So the point is to give yourself options, not to take them away, I think. Haven't read that in any FIRE books. Sit in the corner and eat porridge and don't have any fun or turn the heating on.
I don't know. I think, what was it, Millionaire Expat or Millionaire Teacher, he pretty much lives on things that he scrounges off the beach, which are mussels, which is not too bad, right?
Doesn't he enjoy that?
I thought he was doing it when he was younger, but not anymore.
No, of course he doesn't do it now. He's got a wife. She probably doesn't put up with that.
Well, I think, you know, food is one of the things where you can really spend a lot of money on and enjoy it, but you can also have a lot of really good food for, you know, normal money or not a lot of money. And I think I've been a student so long that, you know, I've really learned how to cook well for, you know, not very much really, and I still do it. And sometimes, you know, sometimes I spend more, but normally I just, you know, it's just how I do it. And I think people who struggle are maybe those who don't like cooking, and I get it, or people who just can't be bothered, I get it. But there's always ways of not spending too much money on food. For example, I could never live just on
takeaways. Oops, where's the mute button?
All right, everyone. Any other thoughts or feedbacks on the video? I mean, obviously, it was meant as a fun way to start the evening. I'm glad a lot of you caught up on that. Granted, it's not going to be in the top 10 list of FIRE resources for sure. But I thought if we're going to address this, let's have a bit of fun. And I thought she presented the arguments against in a nice way. So, Nicola, you'll be glad to know things are going to get a lot more serious now, okay? We're going to listen to a response.
Perfect.
Well, Your Money, Your Life has a long history. It's not just a couple of people had a good idea and decided to be famous and write a book. Joe developed the program, and Joe Dominguez, my co-author, developed the program in Your Money, Your Life in the 1960s. So that was a decade in development, and it was only for himself, only for his own early retirement. He just felt like financial service was like military service. You like get through it because the real stuff of life is through the other door, the door out of wage slavery or paid employment. And I met Joe after he had become financially independent. I had some savings. He explained what he'd done. And it made a lot of sense to me for a very different reason from him. For me, I was a recent college graduate, and I'd started on a professional track. I graduated from Brown University. I had lots of good prospects, but it just didn't make any sense to me to sell all my intelligence, time, you know, creativity, you know, so that I could narrow that focus down into somebody else's agenda. I wanted to be free, honestly, and well, I was in my 20s, and we understand that, don't we? And so I applied his tools, and it freed me up to have a minimum income, but be able to have maximum adventure. So fast forward, in the early 1980s, people began to be interested in, like, why was Joe financially independent? Why was I not having to work when they had to go back to work? You know, they'd meet us on their vacation and they'd go back to work. Why don't we have to go back? And so he started to develop like first I did this, then I did that, then I did that. So he developed what has become the holy writ of the 9-step program, but it was just really him describing his own process. Over the 1980s, we produced live seminars and then a tape course so that this word could get out, you know, this like approach to money. Number one, if we define financial independence as the process of liberating your mind and liberating yourself from debt and developing savings, everybody needs to be on this path. It's a self-preservation path. So I'm not talking about freeing your time forever, getting, you know, pulling the trigger, as they say in the FIRE movement, and getting financially independent. As a matter of fact, that becomes a problem for a lot of people because they don't know what to do with their time. It's an identity crisis. You know, suddenly your boss or your profession or your, you know, your context is not defining how you spend the hours of your day. You're free. Oh dear. Now you have to do it. So I don't think that's the ultimate goal. As a matter of fact, I distinguish between work, job, income, and identity. You know, those are 4 things that all go in the category of job. So if you haven't thought about who am I, what is my work in life, apart from like my job is what I do for money, but your work is more of a social role or a spiritual calling. You know, your work is, everybody's work is to be a good person. Boom. That's, you know, that's a basic assignment. We all got that one. To be a moral human being. That takes work. You know, self-education takes work. So I would hope that people start to think about that, you know, somebody who's a family man and he has a, you know, sort of pay grade job, gets out of debt, realizes that money doesn't buy happiness, invests a lot in being with his grandkids. That's somebody who is becoming financially independent in my book. So that's one part of it, is that we have to stop thinking about some la-la land thing where we're going to get out of everything, because we don't want to. We will be working until the day we die. Granny is going to be like, you know, helping out in, you know, with the grandkids. And work is actually what we love to do. We love to belong, and we love to make a contribution, and we love to be appreciated for the gifts that we bring. That is a lifelong task. So I just wanted to say that the financial independence path really is freeing up your life from debt and from the obsessive desire, you know, obsessive materialism. So there are certain things. One is that I'm not saying everybody should pull the trigger and free up their time to have an identity crisis and an existential angst about what do I do with my time, because it's a process of freeing yourself. You know, this combination of values and dreams and dollars and cents in a very pedestrian way, and a sort of a decloaking of the dynamics of the consumer culture, so people can see that the things they think they want are very often ideas that are planted in their heads. We're not giving people back their lives. They read the book, or they get onto this program, and they just like go, whoosh, I'm taking it. You know, I'm going to take my life back, because this game is not worth the candle. This is not equal to who I really am. This is not a noble path, and I am going to change. So long history, but you know, came out of just one guy. You know, when he was 12 years old at PS 81 in New York City, he had to write an essay about, you know, what do you want to be when you're 30? And he said financially independent.
Right then.
What a great video. Amazing.
Nicola, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I think we should raise a glass to Vicki Robin. Cheers. Decloaking the dynamics of the consumer culture. I mean, that's a heavy video, 6 minutes. I've watched it a few times now, and I made like a whole page of notes. That's right down the other end of the spectrum from where we started, right? So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go back to the breakout rooms and see where the conversation takes us, and then we'll meet up again afterwards. So another 10-12 minutes, and then we'll meet back here. Okay. Welcome back. So, hey, Roland, you're top of my screen for some reason. Amit, and now a silhouette of Caroline's with a dark background. So please tell me, what is Vicki Robin talking about in this video? What is What is it? How would you summarize? Amit, you've come off mute. Help me out here. How would you summarize what she's talking about? Message.
Yeah, so we were discussing it, and it was really philosophical in terms of, it was deep, the messaging in that video, and it was more about your personal self. And I guess it was more of a life message rather than a focused, financial fire message or anything else. So we were just saying that, you know what, it was so deep for an evening YouTube video that it was just like, there's a lot of lessons, a lot of like morals, I guess, to learn from it, to build a good foundation and things like that. But it was just really hard to focus on one message, yeah, it was just, I just glazed over some of it.
As I said, I've watched it. That's the 4th time I've watched it. It is quite deep. There is a lot of stuff in there. I think that's a good response. Anyone else? Thoughts? What did you discuss?
Well, there was a person in our group who hadn't actually heard of Vicky Robin, and I'm interested to hear. I mean, for us, we all see her and like, Vicky, But if it's the first time you're hearing her, I'd be interested just to hear from one of the new people. Maybe Raf on our group who would like to say something. No, he disappeared. Has everyone here heard of Vicky Robin?
You have now.
Yep.
I just wanted to say something quickly. I've got to go in a sec, but I just wanted to chip this in. It may or may not be the right place for it. I think what's really important about this whole kind of FOMO, YOLO stuff is that ultimately you don't end up with any regrets. I think that's a really important benchmark, for all of this. You don't want to look back and think, I wish I hadn't scrimped on that, or, I was listening to the Afford Anything podcast, and there was actually a feature about when frugality goes too far. And what the presenter actually was saying that there have been a couple of instances when she wishes she hadn't been so frugal. And one of them was when her parents were going to sell the family home, and she decided not to fly back. She was in the States. She decided not to fly back to see the family home for the last time and clear her room and stuff. And it only would have cost a couple of $100. And she regrets to this day that she didn't do it. So I think you really have to keep that kind of uppermost in your mind. When I look back, will I regret not spending that money on whatever it was?
A point there. I think you do have to keep a balanced view of it. But that's one style of regret. The other style of regret is I need to get to 70 years old and realise I have to carry on working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the flip side of it. So it's finding that nice balance.
So not regretting not doing FI.
Yeah, both. It works both ways. It's
absolutely.
Finding the balance.
But for me, that would be a big, thing to think about, a big consideration about spending money. It's like, in a few weeks, months, years, would I regret if I didn't do it? Because some things are important. Sorry, that was a bit
nice.
of a...
No, that was great. What? Anyone else?
I just want to throw a feeler out there. Am I the only one who enjoyed Mrs. Down Jones more?
Yes.
Fine.
But it's okay. You can still stay in the meeting, and we will keep talking to you.
You're not being outed from the group or anything.
No. Sonia actually said that we might have, permanently scarred a couple of new fire people. Have to go and, get them back and tell them that this is actually not the message that we wanted to pass on.
She was definitely an enjoyable parody of certain American fire influencers, especially some of the extreme frugality ones with their like crazy couponing and all the other crazy stuff they do in America.
Mr. Money Mustache.
I do like that.
Honestly, I think she's brilliant. And we will speak more about her. So Are you seeing my screen again? Yeah, thanks, Sonia. Yes, Vicky Robin is deep, but actually in researching for this evening's meetup, my conclusion is that this topic is deep. You know, FOMO, YOLO, it all sounds very funny, but I think Vicky's right. I think Amit's sort of summary there is right. It is a very deep issue. It is very, she even says spiritual. It's about finding yourself, your values in life. And I think this quote is a bit of a tongue twister, but I think it's pretty spot on. And yes, I also appreciate the story about the person who saved the $200 to not go and see their family. There's a time and a place when you need to spend money, and you need to just have that in your budget. You know, every year there's got to be something that you haven't foreseen that's going to put a dent in your frugal lifestyle. But sometimes it has to be done, I think.
I think also you have to be realistic as well, you know, and know yourself a little bit. You know, if you know you like buying magazines, then build a magazine line into your budget. You know, don't deprive yourself if that's what you enjoy doing. So yeah, I think again, you know, don't take the frugality too far and kind of deprive yourself.
Nice. Lynn?
Go ahead, Lynn.
No? Okay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about her distinction between, you know, work, job, income, identity. You know, when she lists those four things, you think, oh, but they're nothing alike at all. But of course, most people who are not in FIRE just spend their entire lives talking about their job, and I did this and I did that, and they find it very difficult to separate job and identity. And of course, you know, we're not going to have a job forever, but we will probably work forever, whether it's, you know, pottering around the garden or knitting or doing volunteering. I mean, work is something to be enjoyed. It might not be a corporate job, but I really enjoyed that part of the video.
Well, I spent all of yesterday and most of Monday preparing for this meetup. That was work, but I love it.
You were on the beach.
Shush.
Working on the beach.
That's it.
You can still work on the beach.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you very much. Trying to be deep. Okay, moving swiftly on. Coming back to Mrs. Dow Jones, if you haven't done so already, I would recommend you Google her. Her name is Haley Sachs, and I've got a coconut here because, well, it was part of the deck that I've borrowed from Slides to Go. But actually, I think Haley is a bit like a coconut. She's hard and rough on the outside, apparently, but on the inside, she's actually soft and sweet, and I think she might be good for you. If you, and some of you have already picked up on that, she's actually pretty smart, pretty switched on. And if you look at her Facebook or her Twitter, it's called Finance is Cool. I think she's sort of toned down the whole stay rich bitch part of it. But Gary, you tell us 173,000 followers. Is that good? Sounds like a lot of people to me. And one article I found from CNBC, which I share as well here in this, you know, there's just a quote here that her goal is to educate young adults and help them get confident and secure a healthy financial future. So would her and Vicky Robin really disagree that much on things, or are they actually singing the same tune? So
I don't know, but I'd love to see an interview between the two of them.
Yes. Let me
make that happen.
Yeah, let's invite them to the next meetup.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh, setting expectations. But no, if you look her up, she's got lots of more fun stuff. But she's also evolving as she becomes more popular, I think, and especially through lockdown, she's identified that this is having a serious mental health issues, especially on young people. And she set up a group to address that. And she's set up a charity and donating to charities for that. So I say more power to her. Okay. Now, these are the resources. These are the links. Just before we go on to this, is there any more feedback or thoughts about Mrs. Dow Jones and this topic? No?
I'd like to hear Guy say why he liked her so much.
I love her. She's so entertaining. I feel like I went through a whole journey with her. I said in one of the rooms I was in, at the first 2 minutes, I wanted to punch her in the face. She's really annoying. By the end, I was in love with her. She's brilliant. I'm going to binge all her videos. She's really entertaining. And she actually made a few valid points. Yes, I don't think she researched fire enough. It's not about a camper van or ramen, but she did make, I really liked her point at the end of the video about surrounding yourself with financial savvy people will make you more successful, and about community. And yeah, she did make some valid points as well.
Yeah, I guess it's just knowing what's going to appeal to different people. But there were some nice messages. Right, Anders.
So yeah, thanks for that. Really good input. And I also did watch the video 2 or 3 times before deciding to share it. And my first reaction was also like, wow. She's laying into
Sorry,
people.
Anders. I was struggling to find the unmute button. Dominic said that in his opinion, it was she done it partly for like a clickbaity type video, and he actually believes that she probably follows it more than she leads on, and that she's not so stupid as she sort of makes herself sound, which I agree with completely.
Spot on. That's my conclusion as well. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah, and to add to that quickly, I actually think that by forming it the way that she did, she very cleverly may have been educating people who otherwise would have just dismissed it from the start. So by playing such a negative role on it, other people could be going, yeah, oh yeah, I see that, absolutely, go with that, yeah, you go for it, lay into them. And then at the end, she brings them around with, actually, well, you can save a bit more, you can be a bit more savvy, which is possibly a message that they wouldn't have listened to if she'd have just started off with that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I mean, you could definitely find people who'd be completely put off. But I think I'm trying to picture my 18-year-old self listening to that video and what I thought, what I would have thought.
She's actually a certified financial planner, as per her LinkedIn.
I want to go back and read all the comments on the video now.
And now a question to you both. How did you find her? How did you come across her?
Google.
Did you actively Google for something like that, or did you stumble upon her?
I didn't know her already, Sonia. It's a good question. But obviously researching for what to do for this meetup, how to present it, I was looking for detractors. And I think it's that word that helped me find her. Or something along those lines. Criticism of fire, stuff like that, I think is where I started. But obviously I've been researching this meetup for months, right?
Yeah, I mean, you were saying, is 173,000 followers a lot? I don't think it is, right? I mean,
no, but she's only just getting started.
Well, she's got at least 30 new subscribers tonight.
Her Instagram bio is, she talks about a company that she works with, get your first 5K invested for free with this company and so on. So she is, she's actively marketing also services that either she is involved in or, she's paid by the company.
We will investigate. No, I think the point is that, people have jumped onto the fire bandwagon, whether it's in a positive or a negative way. I mean, I think I got into fire, or I heard about fire when I listened to the Susie Ormond interview on Afford Anything, with Paula Pant, and she was also bashing the movement, but and people jumped and instead of it, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But it generated millions of listens. I mean, you know, you get. I'm not sure if it necessarily reflects their opinion, or maybe just the poor understanding of what fire is. But you can actually get a lot of clicks that way. Anyway.
I think it's for sure. It's she's piggybacking the fire movement to get hits and likes and views of her videos. But at the same time, she's drawing attention to Mr. Money Mustache and Vicky Robin. And I guess your average millennial would find the first video a lot more fun than the second video. So in that sense, I think it's positive for the fire movement. But that is not actually the topic of today's event. We're here to discuss fire, and we're here to discuss FOMO and YOLO. And the way I want to wrap up is just to come back to what we had in the agenda, in the original outline on the Meetup page, which was, how do you all go about getting the balance right? I believe most of us in this Meetup are on a journey towards financial independence. And therefore we do, I believe, try to have a high savings rate, because that is key. And would anyone like to share, especially coming out of this holiday season, how do you go about having a nice holiday whilst staying true to your fire journey? And how do you balance this? Does anyone want to share?
Sorry, Sonia, I'm just watching your face. What is he doing? Anyway, sorry, distracted. Yeah, the original topic was, you know, we were talking about frugal fun and how fire doesn't have to be a sacrifice. And, you know, Anders working on the beach is a good example, I guess. That was fairly cheap.
I was just going to share, I made a few notes about this as well. So I mentioned this to a few people at the fire picnic in Wimbledon, but as an American expat, I still have, I still look for things on American travel websites, and there can be significant differences in prices for the same holiday if you're traveling abroad. So if anybody has dual nationality or financial accounts in other countries, just comparing travel prices between like the US and the UK or France and the UK, whatever, that's a great way to potentially save money. And another thing is house sitting. So this is something I've just started this year, and I've only done house sitting within the UK, well, within London and the greater London area. But the idea that I'm doing is that because it's sort of a reputation-based system, so you apply for a house sit, and then the person needing the house sit will get lots of applicants, and they'll choose someone. So I'm doing it within London locally just to build up my reputation. But like on there, it's like they're like month-long house sits in the Costa del Sol in Spain or places. So getting into house sitting and pet sitting can be a way as well.
Wayne, are you dual nationality then with UK and US? Isn't that tax suicide? Or worse? Is it not like a relentless torture?
Yes, it's horrible. I can vent about it for hours.
Sorry.
Anyone else?
A support group for anybody who's got dual nationality, just for handling the tax. Everybody I speak to is in hell with that. So
I haven't done it personally, but something I think would be a good idea is maybe paying yourself a sort of spending pot, and that may help encourage you to spend on things you want to spend on, you know. So rather than keeping it in an account that you feel a bit more worried about spending it, maybe have a sort of separate account for spending to encourage you to treat yourself sometimes.
I think you have to consider what treating yourself is. If you decide to go and buy yourself something that's whatever, and then that agonizes you because you've spent something for no apparent reason. You've got to be able to differentiate what's good spending and not spending for the sake of it, and bad spending. That's one of the key things of FIRE is assessing your purchases and why. It's got to be good spending. If it's good spending, then spend.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, and what Gary said, just maybe working out an allocation that you're happy to spend and not worry about. And I suppose I kind of do that. I don't really keep a solid record of things, but I keep a sort of rough tally in my head where I think, oh, you know, I haven't been out much this month or haven't spent much, so you know, I might treat myself to something. And I think it's nice to do it that way, so you just don't feel any guilt attached to it, and you sort of just and thought, oh, how do I this month? You know, that keeps it under control. You know, I think we're all the sort of people that are conscientious about our spending, so it's not a problem for us. And just the very fact that you're kind of keeping a rough idea in your head of how much you've spent is enough to keep it under control. But yeah, I like to do it like that, so I don't feel guilt when I do occasionally spend on something that isn't essential.
I come back to Vicky Robin and talking about values, because to me, I see people getting on an intercontinental flight to go and stay in a 5-star hotel in Thailand to go to the beach for a week, and they will spend £7,000 or £8,000. And I would rather go camping in Cornwall for £23 a night. And Cornwall has world-class beaches, right? And so I think that's why I put that video up there for Vicky, because that's what I believe is about values. What are the values that you have? What are the things that really make you happy?
And the thing is, like those people spending thousands going to Thailand and obviously doing it wrong, because you can go to Thailand and spend what you would spend on a campsite in the UK, because it is very cheap. They're obviously doing it wrong because it's not that expensive.
No, I know you can go to Thailand cheaper than that, but the intercontinental flight is still going to set you back a couple of thousand.
No, a few £100 for a return.
Okay.
And it's go for longer,
isn't it? Sorry.
Excuse me.
And as if the flight is the expensive part, go for longer.
Okay, thanks. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Thailand. Been there many times. I'm not dissing Thailand.
No, I actually remember a conversation with two of my colleagues. One of them went to a stag do in Miami, and he told us that he spent like £6,000 in a week. And I remember my colleague turning to him and laughing at him, because that's what she and her husband spent 6 months traveling in Asia. It's all about value for money.
Well, I think we have to ask your friend if he got really good value for money whilst on a stag do in Miami. He could have had a great time.
I think he would have.
Absolutely. Like, it's priorities for each person. It's personal.
Sure, he doesn't remember it though.
I hope so.
Okay, so people are starting to drop off. We've been going for an hour and a half, so let's move on. We're going to share the deck as usual, and these are the links to the resources I've shared. And here's a picture of me living life and doing what makes me happy. And this guy is it's called Jamie. I went to boarding school with him. He's 6'9". I shared a room with him for a year at boarding school. He's down on the Isle of Wight. So if some of you, yeah, he's an absolute giant of a guy. It's funny going out with him because I'm not a tall guy, but you know, it's crazy. But anyway, you can see the happiness there. So for me, like what makes me happy is seeing friends, seeing old friends. And the reason I had the freedom to go and see him a couple of weeks ago is that, I don't know how many of you were in the March meetup where I talked about being a wage slave, which was funny. Actually, Vicky Robin used that term in her videos just now. So the meetup there was about how to be life of a wage slave, because I've always been a wage slave. And in that video, in that meetup, I spoke about changing jobs and managing your jobs. And I think I jinxed my career with that meetup session, because the very next week, yeah, laughing is allowed. The very next week, my job satisfaction just absolutely plummeted. Things happened that made me miserable, and I was like, damn, I've gone and jinxed it. So I had to do what I told you all to do in that meetup, and I had to go and find myself a new job. So I actually finally left Zendesk in last month, and luckily I have found myself a new job. I will start on October 11th, and but I've managed to negotiate this 2-month garden leave, and that is why I said to myself, I need to make the most of this time. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go and meet a good old friend on the Isle of Wight. And how did I get there? Well, I got in another good old friend's boat, so he sailed me. So my cost for this trip was pretty close to zero. So yeah, my dad always used to say, you don't need to be rich, son, just have rich friends. That's another piece of good advice. So there's my little story, and my little update as well, personal update. I'm staying with software sales, and I will reveal who I'm going to work for, but not in this meetup. I'll wait until I get started, and I'll tell you it's not very exciting anyway. So any questions or last thoughts? These are the events we have coming up. Some of those of you who joined our picnic in the park who asked me what's coming up, as part of my exit from Zendesk, I got access to a career and life coach, a perk I hadn't used before. And it was actually quite funny. That was part of the perks of working at Zendesk. And when I told that career coach and life coach, who's a total independent third party on NDA and everything, when I told her about the state I was in, the first thing she said to me, she said, you need to find a new job, which I thought was quite funny. And, I had 4 or 5 sessions with her, and she's absolutely awesome. And I told her that I was on this journey of trying to go from full employment to being some kind of entrepreneur, self-employed. And she said, you know what? In my job as a career and life coach, I'm being approached by so many people, and it has only gained pace with lockdown and the pandemic, that are trying to do exactly the same as you. And I'm actually finding it really difficult. Like Vicky talked about, that whole mindset shift, change. So she's helping people on that journey. So after we, finished our engagement, I became good friends with her. She's just amazing. And I've asked her to come and join us for an evening and tell us a little bit about the work that she does. And we're really lucky. So she's going to join us in October. I think Caroline published that event on the meetup just earlier today. Thanks, Caroline. And then in November, we're going to do the meetup that some of you asked us to do at the picnic, which is, and it's also relevant, and it follows on really well from tonight's event, which is, what do you do after fire? So once you've reached that fire point, do you get your chair and sit in there and open your book and just start reading books, or what do you actually do with your life? So it seemed that was quite a popular topic, and obviously it's all about dreaming. So I think that should be a good evening, and it's another evening where we're really going to count on your engagement and your contributions. So please,
any volunteers who have hit fire who would like to host that with us, please give us a message.
Yeah, or some of you that maybe have made some real big thoughts about that. Gary, you're not going to be able to contribute. Gary is not going to be allowed to contribute because he's doing the opposite. He's doing the wrong thing. And then in December, I'm hoping to get in a financial planner from the UK who is very busy helping a lot of people. And I thought his story was very interesting about what keeps him busy. And that is actually quite relevant because, as someone posted in the chat earlier, the national insurance has just gone up. And, the amount of people who don't even know what national insurance is, or how much they're contributing, or how much they have in their pot, or what that's going to pay them in the future, is also quite shocking. So we hope these events are going to be of interest. And that could be kind of a wrap unless anyone has anything to contribute. We'll leave the meetup open as usual. Any questions or thoughts, ideas? Thanks, Gary. Even though I'm teasing you. All right then. Well, if no one else wants to share anything, what we usually do now is Caroline and I, we go off and we finish this bottle of wine, and we just let you guys talk amongst yourselves, and we leave the meetup. We just leave the meetup room open. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your contributions. It's been a real pleasure. We hope you've had a good time, and we hope to see you again.